So in this video now, I want to give you a very, very simple and basic framework for working with people. Right? As a human being, you are now growing in value. Why? Because you're growing in insight, you're growing in understanding, you're becoming better acquainted with yourself. You're really starting to know thyself and understand yourself, aren't you? I'm sure that you are. Well, I hope so anyway, by now. I'm doing my best here to simplify all these ideas so that you can get them and build them into your life. Here is a framework. Now, in response to that story that I just shared with you, the Chris story, I adapted and I adjusted and I built a new standard into my life. Why? Because I guess what we don't need to be doing in life is wasting our time with people who aren't ready to change or ready to move or ready to grow or ready to go. All right? We want to make sure that if we are giving our time, we're making a wise investment. You know, sometimes giving our time to people, it's an interesting idea. A lot of people will give their time to working with an organisation that they aren't even passionate about for a lifetime, and they'll spend their whole lives working for money. Kind of like money is one of the most valuable commodities in the world. But my friend, what about our time? It's kind of like we can devote our lives to making money, and we'll get money and we spend money, but then we don't get money back again. Or we can go and get a job and we can earn it back again. We might get it back. It depends on how proactive we are in life. But here's the thing. If we spend our time, then we don't get our time back. And this is an idea that I just want to share with you here. The difference between spending your time and investing your time. Right? When we spend our time, we're kind of giving it away. We're pouring it into a pit or a hole. What we want to be doing with our time is the same as what we would want to be doing with our money. We wouldn't just walk up to a hole and throw our money into a hole, would we? Of course we wouldn't. Well, in the same way, let us get good at investing our time also, so that we can see a return. That's why I shared with you the Chris story, because on some level, I know you can relate. All right, you are going to be looking at yourself, you're going to be reviewing yourself right now as being a proactive person, or as being a completely disempowered person, right? A completely disempowered person who hasn't yet taken responsibility for their life, or you know that on some levels, on many levels, or on most levels, you have taken responsibility for yourself. And this is what empowers you, the responsibility that you've taken. So, what I want to share with you here, very, very simple model, and it's how it is that you can gauge where a person is at and whether or not they are a wise investment of time or whether they aren't. All right, so I want to have a look at the helping relationship here from the perspective of them and also from the perspective of you. What they want to be bringing to the table, but what you want to be bringing to the table also. So this is going to start culminating all the ideas that I've shared throughout this section so far. All right, so first things first. Let's have a look at common cognitive behavioral therapy client issues. People are generally only going to come to you when they have a problem or when they perceive themselves as having a problem. All right, and what is their actual problem going to be? It's going to be irresponsibility, an area of their life, a void they perceive themselves as having that they haven't yet taken ownership of filling for themselves. They're waiting for someone else to come along to resolve their problems for them. Indecisiveness can play a huge part in this, a massive part in this. Sensations and feelings of helplessness, all right? Helplessness, where, I'm unable to, I can't, I have these problems, but I can't do anything about them. I just can't. I can't. No such thing as can't, is there? There's just won't. I can't resolve my life. No, I will not resolve my life. That's what people are actually saying. Generally governed by fear, all right? Fear, as I've mentioned, one of the most useless and unhelpful emotions that we experience on a day-to-day basis. It ain't no illness, friend. It ain't no condition, all right? It's just a feeling. It's just an emotion, and an extremely unhelpful one at that. Powerlessness. Fear spawns powerlessness. I'm scared. I'm powerless to change. I'm incapable of changing. I'm helpless. An expression of immaturity. When people are confused in their identity, people do not know who they are. Therefore, they deem themselves helpless, powerless, often act irresponsible and indecisive. Upon a foundation of instability, all right, when a person is grounded in who they are stable. When a person is not grounded in who they are unstable and undecided in their ways. And through this, you're going to experience inconsistency in the decision making, in the choices, in their actions, in their behaviors. And ultimately, you're going to struggle to find in a responsible person being particularly relational. So as we grow in responsibility, we grow in relatability also. Think about the kind of people that you want more of in your life. All right? Let's paint this picture. Do you want more irresponsible, indecisive, helpless, fearful, powerless, immature, confused, unstable, reactive, inconsistent, unrelational people in your life? Yes or no? The answer is no. Of course you don't. How about I switch sides here? All right. How about if I was to say to you, right? Okay. How about you have an abundance of responsible, decisive, confident, faithful rather than fearful people who are strong, who are mature, who are grounded in their identity, who are stable, proactive, consistent, and relational. Of course, you're going to be saying, yes, I want more people like this in my life. Where can I find them? Kane Ramsey. That direction. Go there first. Become the kind of person that you want more of in your life, because like attracts like. This is why I'm really emphasizing this point of self-awareness, self-regulation, self-management first, before influencing other people. Become the kind of person that you want more of in your life. All right, so let us now look at how it is that we can identify whether we want to be giving a person our time or whether we don't. On a day-to-day basis, relationships, through our day-to-day relationships, or if we're working with clients. All right, there are some people who I will say no to. There's some people that I might start working with, but I will stop working with unless they're ticking these boxes. I need to see at all times that a client is open to receiving new ideas. If a client's not open, then they are not taking responsibility for changing themselves. All right, that's it. Now, I'm always going to give people a bit of grace. Like Chris, I gave him 1.5 years of grace. So I'll always give a person, a session or a couple of sessions. But if I don't see a person, or if I am faced with any resistance, a person saying, no, I disagree with that, I did it, I think this, I think that. A person is, in some sort of cognitive power struggle with me. Listen, that's okay. Listen, when you're open and ready to change, shift your way of looking at life, then we can talk then. But for now, some people just need to hit rock bottom a little bit harder before their desire to change becomes greater than the desire to remain the same. All right? And it's not that people are bad. It's just sometimes people are stubborn. People aren't yet open. And you can't work with anyone who isn't open to change. Someone who's committed to the process of change. You know who are an absolute pleasure to work with? People who are sick of themselves and who are desperate to change. Right? Those people you will love working with. I give you a personal guarantee. People who are receptive, all right? So as a cognitive behavioral therapist, you're going to be sharing some quite confrontational ideas with them, some ideas that might even completely contradict their whole outlook on life, the way that they're, relate to themselves, the way they relate to life. It might contradict everything they've come to believe about how life is, right? This is a very, very different way of interpreting and looking at life, isn't it? Right? But here's the thing. We gauge a person's openness by their receptiveness. Is one thing, like Chris, we'll go back to that Chris story. I met with Chris every week. He was open to being on the receiving end of my time and my input and my efforts, but was he receptive? No, he wasn't. Receptiveness is all about us putting into practice that which we are learning. All right? You can be as academic as you want. You can know as many theories as you want. But if these theories aren't resulting in your life being impacted or transformed in some way, then how valuable are they? We've got to ask these questions. So when working with clients, we've got to be asking the question, are they open? Are they receptive? Well, how do we gauge whether they're open and receptive? Because we're going to start seeing them changing. Right? Between sessions, they are going to take action steps. They're going to get more proactive. They're going to start growing in responsibility. They're going to start making more decisions for themselves. They're going to be growing in confidence. They're going to be acting more out of faith. Faith's a funny word. A lot of people associate the word faith with religion. Faith has nothing to do with religion. Faith 9 times out of 10 is a complete opposite of religion. Religion's more about stagnicity. It's about rigidity. One way of looking at life, getting it right, isn't it? We are the right ones, they are the wrong ones. Faith is about future-based expectation. All right? We will be fearful of the expectations that we have of the future, or we will be full of faith. All right, and it's faith that kind of drives us in life. All right, I'm a man of faith. Why? Well, I create a course like this in faith that some people are going to enroll in it, find the lessons valuable, put the principles into practice, transform not just themselves, but go on to share the ideas with other people so that together we can transform the world through a course like this. Crazy idea, isn't it? Some people might call me crazy. I say I'm a man of faith. That's all right. How much faith do you have for better things that are yet to come? Strength, maturity, a person growing in their identity, becoming more stable, more proactive, more consistent, more relatable and reliable. Right? That's how we gauge how open and receptive a person is. And when they start seeing and identifying that they themselves are growing, they become appreciative of us. These are the boxes that I want to be having ticked. Tick, tick, tick. If these 3 boxes are not getting ticked from the people that I'm working with, I will stop working with them. Why? Because there's other people out there who are ready to change, who are ready to move, who are ready to start growing. So you can ask then, well, what's required from us? Well, what's required from us is actually space inside of our minds. Now, I've done my best to demonstrate this through some of the conversations I've had with Karen so far, all right? So when I'm having a conversation with Karen or a client or whoever, my head is free from agenda. I have no outcome. I have no goal in mind. There's nothing that I want to teach. There's nothing that I want to fix. I'm not operating out of any assumption or anything like this. I'm completely available. I'm completely available and present to experience this other person where they're at. The last thing that I want to do is put them in a box or judge them or assume incorrectly. Why? Because that will therefore then sacrifice and compromise, disrupt and damage the trust. All right? All of our relationships are based upon a foundation of trust. It can take a long, long time to build up trust, but it can take an instant, a second, a moment to tear trust down. So the CBT-based relationship is a trust-based relationship. Our clients must know what they can trust us for. We can't be there to try and fix them or heal them or anything like that. Why? Because if we're there to try and fix them or heal them, what are we operating out of? The presupposition or the notion that they're broken and that they need fixed. And that's not empowering for anyone. So we've got to be there to experience them wholly, fully, non-judgmentally, from a place of unconditional acceptance. We're here to empathize with them, to empathically relate. We're here to be congruent. We're here to lead them by example. All right? Which means that we've got to be completely aware. First and foremost, we've got to be available for this other person. And what I'm talking about here is not, do I have time in my diary? Do I have space in my mind? Am I preoccupied by other things? All right, do I have distractions? Am I worried about a relationship issue I've got with my wife or my spouse? What my children are going through at school? Am I actually available to empty and rid my mind of thought and be present for this other human being? Because if so, then I've got to step into awareness. I've got to fine-tune myself, all right? I've got to be completely aware of me and them, where they're at. So that when we are conversing, I'm responding not just to what's being said, but sometimes what's not being said. I'm sometimes going to respond or question smiles or frowns or tapping or whatever. It's not just sometimes verbal communications. It's going to be sometimes non-verbal communications. Why? Because every non-verbal communication is an action. And we know that every action spawns from an emotion. We know that every emotion spawns from a thought. So it's all about backtracking, which we become more grounded in doing, the more aware of ourselves we become. Attentiveness, all right? And this is where now our focus becomes 100% transfixed on this other person. We are free from thought, we are free from feeling, we are operating out of this place of complete objectivity, here for no other purpose than to see and experience and understand this other person whilst guiding them through the process of seeing themselves more objectively and understanding themselves more profoundly. Are you with me? So, it takes two people to tango, you might say, as the saying goes, and this is how the tango goes, all right? For a CBT-based helping relationship to work, this is what they must bring, but this is what you must bring, all right? The only way you're going to gauge whether they're bringing this to the party, openness, receptiveness, and appreciation for you, is if you are available in your mind, aware of you, aware of them, and if you're paying attention. Are you with me? Simple framework, right? But it's one that if you build this into your life, guess what you're going to grow in? Tick, 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 tick. So, my friend, for what reason would you not want to? I have no idea. Listen, this is pretty much the foundations of any helping relationship. Remember, one final idea I just want to wrap this video up with, and this is the relationships. Relationships are the essence of life. Relationships can break people, and relationships can make people. In the same way that hurt people, whole and healed people can heavily influence people in becoming healed and whole. So the quality of our life is going to be determined by the quality of our relationships, and the quality of the relationships we go on to nurture and build is going to be determined by how much trust is in them. How much trust is in these relationships will be determined by how available you are, how aware you are of yourself, and how much attention you pay to another human being.